Apart from the obvious to keep us dive professionals gainfully employed, I've got 6 other situations or reasons why you should hire a private dive guide. Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to Divers Ready. It's so great to see all of your smiling faces. My name's James, and this is your Mouthpiece Monday for this week. If you haven't done so already, make your next dive on our subscribe button because we make videos with one simple goal in mind, and that's to help make you a better scuba diver. This week, we're talking all about when should you hire a private dive guide. Now, first, what do I mean by a private dive guide? A private dive guide is essentially any dive professional, so that's dive master level or higher, who in exchange for a fistful of local currency will act as your buddy and dive partner for the day. Now, your private dive guide might be an employee of the dive center that you're diving with, or they might just be a locally based independent instructor, but either way you can expect certain things from them. You should expect them to be current on their certifications and in good standing with their training agency. You should expect them to carry liability insurance and be able to prove their insurance and show you their certificate if you should so wish. And they should also have a liability release for you to sign before they agree to dive with you. So those are all signs and tips that you're hiring a professional to help you be your dive buddy for the day. Think of them kind of as your scuba Sherpa. I really want to make a separate video on doing a refresher course with an instructor. That's not really what I want to talk about today. I'm just talking about hiring yourself a professional buddy for the day. So let's dive into the 6 scenarios. Scenario or reason number 1 to hire a private dive guide is that you just want a reliable buddy. In one of the very earliest videos we made on this channel, we were comparing the Insta-Buddy scenario with taking a solo diver course. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up above there somewhere. But there is a third option, and that's to hire yourself a private dive guide. So if you don't fancy solo diving, and to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of it, and you don't fancy rolling the dice with some random you just met on the dive boat, stranger danger, then I would suggest very strongly considering a private dive guide. The advantage there being you can guarantee you're going to get a professional level diver, dive master or above, who's going to be there for you in the water if the dive goes south and you have an emergency scenario. They're trained and should be able to respond appropriately. And at the end of the day, isn't that all you're really looking for from your dive buddy? The next scenario in which you might want to consider hiring a private dive guide is if you just want better service. I try at all costs to avoid the cattle herding operators. I don't want to be on a boat with hundreds of other divers, but sometimes you're in a part of the world where that's the only option you've got and the large crowds are unavoidable. In which case I'll hire a private dive guide, and that way we can kind of break away from the group and do our own thing and reinstill that sense of adventure that diving's supposed to be all about. It's very hard to feel like you're on an adventure when there's 40 other divers shoulder to shoulder with you, but if the crowd is going that way and you and your private dive guide are going that way, you can kind of forget about them for a while. So yeah, just like going to a nicer hotel or going to a nicer level of restaurant, hiring a private dive guide just means you're going to get better service. The next reason to hire a private dive guide, this one's really a must, is if you have a specific agenda. This goes back to what we were talking about last week with etiquette. But say, for example, you're a photographer and you sign on to a group guided dive, but you just want to nail that one sweet shot of the mandarin fish. If you're lagging behind, you're inconveniencing the whole group. So hire a private dive guide and they can be your buddy. And they won't mind if you explain your agenda to them. Look, I just want to go down, hang underneath the boat for 60 minutes and really nail that shot. They'll hang with you. They're professionals. That's what you're paying them to do. They don't mind doing that. But other people on vacation might not get their kicks the same way you do. So hire a private dive guide. They can hold the lights for you. They can help you get the shot you want and be your buddy in case the dive goes south. The next situation in which I would strongly consider hiring a private dive guide is for any newbie divers, newly qualified divers, or just divers that need a little extra attention. If you're that diver that has just finished their open water course, just said goodbye to their instructor and you're out there in the big wide world, it is absolutely a smart and conservative move to hire yourself a private dive guide. That way you've got one-on-one attention and they can just help you sort of fine-tune anything that you still might feel a little uncertain on having just finished your open water course. It's going to give you confidence, and the first dives after certification are all about building confidence. I've said that many times on this channel. Also, if you need a little extra attention, if you're just uncertain about how your gear's set up and you don't want to call the dive master away from the whole rest of the boat, or perhaps you chill easily and want to turn the dive earlier, or you're heavier on gas consumption, so your dives are going to be shorter, hire a private dive guide, and that way you're not inconveniencing either the Insta-Buddy, or if it's a group guided dive, every other diver on the boat. Hiring a private dive guide means you can take your time. It means you can take your time gearing up, doing your checks, getting in the water, dive for only as long as you want to dive, and have that guide with you in case anything goes wrong. It's a great confidence builder, and I highly recommend it for any newly qualified divers. The number 5 scenario in which I would consider to hire a private guide is if I just wanted coaching in a particular area. We've talked about this many times, not least of all in one of our most successful videos about divers specialty courses, but you don't always need to buy a formal course. You can get coaching in scuba diving. If you just want to work on buoyancy or trim, or you've got a new piece of gear that you want worked out, or you want some photos taken of yourself in the water, or whatever you want to work on, it doesn't have to be a formalized course that results in a little piece of plastic card. You can just get coaching. As I said, a private dive guide is going to be a dive master or an instructor or above. They're going to be more experienced than you, and you can benefit from that experience. So when you book a private dive guide, explain what you want to work on, and hopefully the dive center, shop, or instructor that you're talking to will help pick somebody who has an expertise in that area and will help you polish those particular skills. And again, if you just want to spend the dive below the boat just practicing neutral buoyancy and getting your trim really polished, you can do that with a private guide and you're not inconveniencing the group. So the last reason I've got for you why you might want to hire a private dive guide is if you're diving in a new area. Now, it even says so in the course when you did your open water certification that you are certified to dive in conditions resembling those that you were trained in. So if you're going to different conditions, that implies you need more training, and a private dive guide is perfect for that. They'll be able to give you orientation-based training specific to the location where you're now diving and just teach you how to dive where you are now. You might be a great diver, but you need to learn how to dive here if here is different from where you're from. Give you a perfect example of this. I grew up diving in the UK in a very specific style of diving. The first time I went to Southeast Asia, I was like a fish out of water. I thought I was a good diver, and then I got out there and the conditions are completely different. We don't have upwellings and downdrafts and all these crazy currents that they had out there in the islands. So the first thing I did when I got out there was hire a dive master to teach me the lay of the land. I mean, everything down to how they load the boats with equipment was different, the type of boats. So, you know, you're learning above and below water, and hiring a private dive guide is a really good way to get familiar quick and help you enjoy your diving in a new environment. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it means the absolute world to us. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or you learned something from it. Let me know in the comments below, have you hired a private dive guide? For what reason? And did you enjoy that experience? Just over here, I'll put some other videos from our back catalogue that you can enjoy at your leisure. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name's James. This was your Divers Ready Mouthpiece Monday for this week. Dive safe, dive often.